down pretty low.
Mine is fine. That's fine.
That's good. I'm glad we have these things on there now so I can tap my fingers. Good morning, Houston. This is Pat Reisinger with Massive Passive Show and Massive Passive Dealmakers. I'm kind of the MC this morning, and we have to my right F.A. Grande, which is Ray Sasser.
Did you say Hefe Grande or
F.A. Grande?
Or Epic Grande?
Well, you could be epic. I mean, you are epic around here. And our engineer, Hal Gailey, which makes this show possible and is our computer tech and your computer tech if you need a great computer guy.
Yeah, he keeps us in line. Thank
He
God.
does.
And so far, we've thrown a lot of curveballs at him, but he's yet to miss a hit.
Well, you know, the thing that's great about the guy, he inputs a lot of things into our business. Like, for instance, there was something today we were talking about the sign-in stuff that we need for our event. Man, I tell you what, you guys, if you didn't come to this last event, you're missing something. We have grown this RIA from like 6 people to 100 in the middle of chaos, and it's like it's just growing at the seams. We had to get rid of some tables and get a bunch of new chairs. I mean, it's like people are really turning out for these meetings now, Ray.
Yeah, and I think maybe COVID is over. But before let's talk about it at the meeting. But before we do that, let's just kind of cover what we're going to try to cover today. And so far, we've never covered everything we wanted to do in one radio show. So don't expect stellar success. But
right.
So we're going to talk about the millionaire panels that we did in Houston and San Antonio. I think some good takeaways, and we want to talk about some of those takeaways. We want to talk a little bit about the inflation rate and maybe just bounce around some ideas of what's going on and how we expect that to affect us. We want to talk about the new legislation that's coming out, potential legislation that's coming out to curb wholesalers, and just what's going to happen with there. And then next month, we're going to talk about our agendas for our RIAs next month, because we're going to talk about case studies. We've got a bus tour coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then hopefully we can get down into a contractor agreement and really talk about the 4 or 5 key things that need to be in every contractor agreement. So that's our goal today. So didn't mean to derail you, Pat.
No, that's fine. Listen, we work together. This is a team effort, you know?
Right.
And so sometimes we kind of, it seems like we're stepping on each other, but we're really not. I mean, we preach to the choir every day.
Is that what I feel under my feet? Is your shoes?
Might be. Well, I got some big feet, you know, 13. Actually, they're 14s, you know. Of course, I'm 6'5". I look kind of silly with size 6, you know. However, I did know a guy one time that had little feet, and he wore like size 13 shoes because he didn't want people to know he had little feet, you know.
Well, how'd you know?
Well, because the guys that work with me told me that he poked socks in his boots so he could wear the boots, you know.
That's funny.
Size 13, and he had like a size 8 or 7, you know.
That's what you might call the Napoleonic complex.
Absolutely. Well, he rode motorcycles. He wanted to seem bigger than he was. But anyway, this is the thing. We have this show, and I know that some of y'all have been listening to it, and some of you may be new. And if you are new, we welcome you to our show, because we discuss real estate, but really we get a lot of homeowners that tune into this. And the reason I know that is that we have vendors that we vetted to be our vendor sponsors. And we have, you know, money guys, mortgage guys, hard money lenders. We have insurance guys, we have plumbers, electricians, and all these vendors that you get on our website, which is massivepassiveshow.com. It's real easy. I mean, you should be able to remember, but if you need to write it down, I'll say it slow, probably 3 or 4 more times during the show, right, Ray?
Yeah.
Because we call it our funnel. That's where these events that Ray's talking about, that's where we post that information. We post our vendors. We post our YouTubes, our radio shows, all that stuff you can see on our website, which is massivepassiveshow.com. And matter of fact, I'm signing up 2 new vendors today, and one of them is a guy that's worked for me for years. It's Keith Lamb with Flat Out Plumbing. He's done probably 8 or 10 houses for me, and probably 30 of my clients, right? And also, we picked up another vendor, Jim Green, with the Stinky House. So if you buy a house or you currently have a house that has odor issues, he can go in there and take care of it. We have, we have our public insurance adjuster. So if you have like water damage or a hurricane or some problem and you're insured and the insurance company's not treating you right, well, you get Roger in there and he'll take care of that for you and get you a lot more money.
The key is what we're really trying to do is help you build your team for your real estate investing. And all these people are people that we put in massivepassiveshow.com. And I think we can probably reach them at info@massivepassiveshow.com if there's any questions on anything we're doing, right, Hal?
The email addresses are separate, but they can click and contact us through the website.
Okay, there's a contact button. Okay.
Yeah.
So that we do a massive amount of marketing. So if you're a vendor out there and you've got a good reputation in the industry, we probably reach about 50,000 people a month in our marketing. And a lot of that you don't see, but we guide everybody to that funnel so that they can basically get their team members out of that. And that's really important. And anything we're doing, we put there. Now, I'll admit, none of us like the name of that URL, but it is what it is until we change it. So I think you'll find anything we're doing, like that bus tour that we're going to probably do in March, go there for details. So it's just a good place to head to find out what we're doing.
Right. Well, I mean, you got to start somewhere, and we started this thing. Actually, you started it a couple of years ago, and then we all got together about 9 or 10 months ago, started working together, and we've gone light years in that period of time.
Yeah. Well, in San Antonio, we've had the Ala Maria. It started all there, and that's where it takes a lot of infrastructure to actually keep up with members and keep up with the websites and stuff. So we really got that stabilized. We've really done a good job, and we have a monthly meeting there. And we thought, there's no national chapter member in Houston anymore. And I reached out to the national chapter, the National RIA, which has got 45,000 members. And what's really good about them is with those 45,000 members, the National RIA goes to bat for the chapter members, and so they make good deals. In fact, they flew every national chapter member to Atlanta so we could talk to the contractor Brain Trust in Atlanta, and they asked us what do they want us to do for them, and we set up. We get member benefits back. There's a lot of member benefits that people get, and they've done that with a bunch of vendors. So if you're a member of our RIAs, then you're a member of the national RIA, and you have to, because we're chapter. So there's a ton of benefits that you get from that, and that's something that we can take advantage of as investors. I use several of those national RIAs, not just our local vendors, but I use several of those guys or several of those vendors to do my day-to-day business, because I get
just like you're talking about, the cool thing is that we get massive discounts at Home Depot because of the buying power of the national RIA, right?
Yeah, it's 20% off all paint. I mean, anything in the paint department, it's 20% off, and then they've got like a bid room. It's an automatic bid room now. It used to be manual, where they would actually take your invoice and an hour later give you an estimate. Now they take your invoice in real time, and if it runs through a bid room, if you qualify for the bid room, then you can get 15, 20, 30% discounts on some of the stuff. That's just one vendor. There's other vendors. Like we used to run our own credit reports because we were a member of the credit bureau. We stopped doing that because one of the vendors out there does a better credit report than we do, and a lot less hassle for us to do them. So it's just like, if you're not taking advantage of these things, if you're in this business and you're not taking advantage of them, then that's a terrible mistake. We literally 5 minutes before this call, I don't know if you heard me talking to Teddy, but we got a flooring problem. And so I said, pick up the phone, call Lauren, whatever he says, do what he says. Cause he's done thousands of floors, and we've done, maybe 200 or 300, but he's done thousands. So I'm not going to get it wrong. I'm not going to spend $4,000 finding out that luxury vinyl plank doesn't really work like they tell you it works.
Right, right. Well, that's hey, look, that's exactly why we have these vendors. For instance, Lauren's been with us for years.
Oh,
he goes way back, okay? and he's been in this business for years.
Is
He's
he
been
as
in-
old as you are?
You know,
I bet
he's a couple of years older than me because he's always coming up. When I call him, he'll say, "Hello, Long Ranger," blah, blah, blah. And I go, "Man, you're way back there." He said, "Well, you are too, you know."
What amazes me is he does a job cheaper than the installers. And because he does so much volume, he gets installers. He keeps installers busy. They're working full time for him. And he's doing a lot better than we as individuals doing a job here, a job here.
You can't compete with that. First of all, you
Right.
can't get the outcome that he gets because his installers worked for him for years. And if he starts having problems with them, you know what he does?
I know exactly.
He fires them, right?
Right.
And he probably had to fire an installer for years because these guys really appreciate the volume of business. They don't have to go look for work because he keeps them busy.
One of the problems, like a lot of people will do like a burr where they're doing a buy and then refinance and repair and rehab and then do permanent financing. If you're doing that model, you could do 10 deals a year. If you'd have been doing 10 deals a year for the last 2 years and held on to those properties, your net worth would have probably went up over $1 million just in appreciation. Mm-hmm. And a guy that's doing a deal a month, you can't keep a flooring guy busy. You can't keep a garage door guy busy. You can't, and because you can't keep them busy, you can't keep them loyal. They're not going to do your job next. They're not going to do it on your timetable. And if there's problems, it's going to be hard as heck to get them back because you're one job every couple of months. And somebody like Lauren is like, you don't take care of me, you're out of here. I got 5 crews to replace you. And on top of that, he gets the opportunity to train his guys, show them what we expect. And it's just like, how can you beat that system? You can't beat it.
Well, it's that way with all of our vendors, right?
Right.
I mean, all of them are the same. The only people that we don't have on here is a general contractor, okay?
Right.
And the reason that we don't do that is because he'll throw all the rest of our vendors under the bus, right?
Right.
So
Right.
basically, how Ray and I do this, if you're working with us and want us to manage your project or mentor or coach you, is that we bring in that guy that does the sheetrock and all that stuff.
Right.
And he'll give you a price for that. And he's always very good because this is a wholesale guy, not a retail guy. What you have to understand about our business is that you buy wholesale, you repair wholesale because your vendors are basically wholesale
Yeah,
vendors.
say that last thing again. You do what?
You buy wholesale
And
you repair it wholesale.
And people forget that part. They buy
That's
wholesale and then they repair wholesale or retail plus, and the only person that makes any money in the transaction is the contractor.
That's right. And the money guys.
Right.
And you lose, okay? So that's why you need, if you're new, even if you're a homeowner, our model will work for you. And
Yeah.
you can actually make money on your deal and have more equity
Yeah.
because you're not paying it out to a general contractor.
Yeah, and you know, I think people kind of might get tired of us talking about this part of it, but until you go out there and you see that, hey, I bought the deal right, I did everything right, and then I get this contractor in and he doesn't do the job, or he gets halfway through the job. We have a guy in Alabama, I had to threaten, or not Alabama, but in Orange, I had to threaten to sue him because we gave him a little bit of a down payment and he never showed up for the work.
Right.
And it's like, when you don't have good team members, you're going to sink, whether it's no matter what it is, whether it's a contractor working on a job, whether it's a lender that doesn't get the financing like he promises you he's going to get you. And then you end up, writing a contract that you can't perform on. That's not a good place to be as an investor.
Well, that's one of the things you showed me this morning that you wanted to talk about was contractor agreements, right? And if you're an investor or a homeowner, you need to know about this. Okay?
Let's bring up some of those points. We're not going to let's
hit it real fast.
Yeah,
okay?
10 minutes on it, and let's just talk about our experiences on some of these things on the contractor agreement.
Right. Well, me as a contractor, over the years, I learned a lot of things. And how I learned it is I ran a development company, a near town development company, and I built restaurants and offices and rehabbed over $8 million worth of rental property. And I learned from working with contractors how to write the right contract, because contractors notoriously are not very smart business people, and they'll come in and want 30 or 40% down from you to start a job.
Right.
Well, you're insane to give someone that kind of money And then they tell you, well, you're a new client. That's why I need it down. Like,
Right.
hello.
That's probably one of the biggest mistakes we see with our RIA members, and this is stuff we talk about in the RIA all the time. Is how to set this stuff up so that we don't get in a trap, and that's one of the biggest ones is they get married this contractor, because once you give them that big chunk of money, you're married to them.
Well, okay. For instance, when I ran the field operations for one of the largest hard money lending companies in state of Texas, right, at the time. And I'd go look at these projects, and an investor would already be in trouble. And I'd go walk in, and he goes, man, I'm in trouble. This guy's going to file a lien against me. I said, what for? He goes, well, I gave him $20,000 down, and all he's done is demoed my doors and a little bit of sheetrock. Now he wants more money.
Or disappeared for 3 weeks.
Right. And I go, well, why didn't you give him this money? I mean, he's done maybe $3,000 worth of work.
Right.
And he goes, well, he wanted the money down. I said, look, this guy's not going to finish the job. He's already asked for more money, and you gave him way more than he needs to do what he's done, okay? Well, he's threatening to file a lien. I said, give me his information. I'm going to get rid of this guy. You're going to lose some money because he's not coming back. He don't plan on coming back.
Right.
Because he's already told you he's going to file a lien on you, okay? So I'm going to scare the living poop out of him.
Bejeebers.
Right. And I would, and they would go away.
Right.
And I said, okay, now this is how you're going to handle it. I said, we're going to get another contractor here, and if he wants any money down, you're going to tell him, okay, I'm going to give you $500 to buy some brown paper and stuff and get going, but I want the job spelled out. See, what people don't do is they don't do a punch list.
Right.
And every contractor that comes here, because they haven't done a scope of work, they tell them something different. So therefore, they have 3 guys come through, they have 3 different bids. All right.
You know what? A lot of it, Pat, is without that really detailed scope of work, you don't know what's in that contractor's head. He's coming off of a job, or he's got a particular customer that does something a certain way. So when you're talking to him, he translates what you're saying to something he's done and has experience with. And so
probably is already in the hole when he's coming to your job, because he already
part
spent some of that money. See?
Oh yeah, part of the contractor agreement, and one of the addendums on our contractor agreement is the scope of work, and how to write. If we do the bus tour in March, which I think we're going to do, we'll step them through on how to write that scope of work. Because if you don't make it precise and detailed, then and what is that precise and detailed, we'll have to show you. It's not really hard, but I mean, you got to explain what the material is. You got to explain how the material is going to be applied. And then if you make it detailed enough, then he kind of gets a sense of that. And I've had them where they turn in bids to me, and it's obvious that they didn't really read the scope of work, because their bid is out of whack with the scope of work. Like it might be too cheap or too expensive. And so that's kind of also a safety valve. When we're writing that scope of work, it's a safety valve, because then we know what we want. We in our scope of works, when we write them, we actually put the amount of time that we think a contractor is going to be doing that particular task. So if it's, say, your master plumber that we just got, if it's a master plumber, if that's a 6-hour job and he's bidding $6,000, well, obviously he's thinking we want to do something different, or either he's not our right guy, right? $1,000 an hour is not going to work for us. So scope of work is another thing in the contract agreement. What else would you say in the contractor?
Well, okay, I'm going to kind of start at 0 and go real quick on four different items, okay? Because to get into a contract agreement like the one you showed me is like an attorney wrote it, right?
Right.
Well, I've been writing my own contracts for years.
Right.
And I had attorneys, as clients, and I had doctors as clients, which I'm not going to talk about that. But I've had all these people that are very intricate people.
Right.
And I would ask them, I said, why did you hire me to do this job? Because I know I wasn't the cheapest. He said, no, you weren't the cheapest. But your paperwork spelled out what you were going to do.
Right.
And that's why I hired you. Because everybody.
Well, let's keep this for investor related.
And this is investor related too. Okay.
Is
it the first thing is that a contractor needs to do is spell out what he's going to do.
Right.
And he needs to be typed, and I don't want these handwritten things all scribbled out. Right.
Okay.
Because that means he's lazy and he doesn't do paperwork. I always say, if you're an investor, paperwork people win And people that don't do paperwork generally lose because they don't have any control of anything.
Okay.
So the first thing is I get with my proposals, and I teach people to do this, is that you spell it out what you're going to do. And you walk through the deal with the client, and you start at 1 and you end up at 50. So you have 40 or 50 items, right, that you're going to do, and you spell all those things out. Then the initial part of the contractor agreement is how I get started is, let's say the job's $45,000 with everything, doors, painting, all the flooring and everything. Is I say, okay, look, I need $1,500 to get started.
Okay.
Okay. So I have this $1,500, but then I have everything else itemized out. So in other words, demo, let's say, is $3,000.
Right.
Well, when I get the demo done, you don't owe me $3,000. All you owe me is the balance of that between that draw and that first thing, which is $1,500. That covered the first item, right? So then the next item is, let's say I'm installing sheetrock.
By the way, Pat, let me just, and Pat and I have kind of gone our own tracks through this last 35 or 40 years of doing this. Well, a little variation I do there is I give the 1,500, and it varies on the job, but I'll give the 1,500 as an advance.
That's what it is.
But that 1,500 is pocket money. So then if they have a scope of work that says demo and it's $3,000, when we go and inspect the work, then I owe them $3,000. So I'll give them the full $3,000 because I want them to keep $1,500 pocket money in their pocket because I don't want to take that call.
Well, you can figure that into the job, but it has to be figured out somewhere. So if
you got to work it out.
It's got to work it out with your numbers
before you get to the end.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Well, the whole idea of that is that, okay, let's say he does that, and then he does the sheetrock, and the sheetrock, let's say he's going to furnish the sheetrock or whatever. If you're doing that kind of deal, we like to do it where the contractor, our little general contractor, does it labor only.
Right.
And we supply the materials. So that saves us a 15, 20, 30% markup.
Well, the thing is, I don't want the guy to call me because he's got to pick up $300 worth of material.
That's right.
It's like, this is a petty cash account for you. About 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the job, we're going to work that $1,500 back out because you're not going to need that.
And they're buying it from where we tell them to go buy it. Okay, so we know we get an invoice for that. We not only get it from them, but if they lose the invoice, we still have an invoice coming from the place because we put it on a credit card.
Right.
That's how we manage our money.
By the way, one of the National REIA benefits with Home Depot is they have text to approve, and we use the heck out of this. And text to approve means if the contractor's sitting at the contractor's desk, they text me, and basically I have to push 1 on my phone. And when I get the text, it says Pat's up here at the contractor's desk. It's hardwired, and it's just a text message. And then there's a link on there, so I can hit that link. I can look at the invoice or the what they're buying at the contractor's desk, and I'll say, "Oh, table saw. Why is there a table saw when he's supposed to be buying wood?"
Right.
And then I might not hit 1 to approve, right? I might call the contractor and say, "Why do you have a table saw on here for $300?" And so then we catch it right there on the spot. So we literally approve it without being there with them, and we look through there. I've seen them before where they buy the $50 a gallon paint because we forgot to tell them. And it's like, no, we don't buy $50 a gallon paint. We buy $20 a gallon paint.
That's right. That's right. Well, and listen, as our student or our client, we make sure that you understand all that, okay?
Yeah.
Because
those are the little things
education.
that make a big difference.
That's right, exactly. So anyway, I spell it all out, and the contractor bids on that. Now, our guys, because the way we do it, they don't really have to spell it out that way,
right?
Because we're paying labor only anyway, okay? And matter of fact, homeowners, you can do the same thing. I mean, it's just a smart way to do it because you're actually becoming the general contractor.
Right.
Because then when it comes to a plumber, you hire your own plumber, your master plumber. It's probably going to be a permitted job anyway.
A lot of our people this conversation comes up where a lot of people talk about, should I hire a property manager? And honestly, in this business, our answer to that is probably not in the beginning because you need to come up to speed on what property management's all about. And in my opinion, if you're going to be doing rehabs, you need to be involved in this. This is not just a turnkey thing where you hand the keys to the guy and then find out that he took all the profit out of the deal. So we do, especially when you're beginning, we do need that level of involvement. Now, if it's a big job, and probably 2/3 of our members are home residential. But if it's a big job, now these rules are a little bit different. But you shouldn't be taking on. In fact, we tell people if you haven't done 4 or 5 rehabs, don't do big rehabs.
That's right.
You know, don't do a $80,000 rehab, because you're not, unless you have a partner that makes money when you make money, not makes money when you don't make money. If you have a partner that makes money when you make money, then maybe okay to take on the big rehab. But if it's you that's the brain trust of this operation, then don't do the big rehab.
Well,
you're not going to survive them.
Exactly right. And I tell you, what people don't understand is these pier and beam houses are a lot more expensive most of the time to improve than a house on concrete.
Yeah.
Because you have joists, you have blocks, you have
Right.
termite damage, you have a lot of things going on in those houses.
Let's hit a couple more bullet points on the contract.
Okay.
I've got one on there. Is you need to put I got 2 real quick. I'll throw one out there. One is real quick. Is I had a guy that you probably worked for once before tell an audience that he didn't sign contractors agreements with his contractors. And when I heard that, I cringed, because when you don't have a contractor agreement, that guy is probably not a contractor. He's probably an employee.
Right.
And the minute he's an employee and he drives that trailer across town and gets in a wreck, then your insurance, if you have insurance, is going to pay for that. And so one of the big things on the contractor agreement is we spell it out there in there. You're an independent contractor. You're taking your own risk. You're required to have your insurance, all those things. And we want to separate ourselves, because contractors sometimes do goofy things.
Well, tree service is a good example. How many people always hire some guy to cut a tree down that's not bonded or insured, and they fall and break their leg or kill themselves?
Or the tree falls in the wrong place.
That's right. Oh, yeah, falls on another house, right?
Well, we had a tree guy next door it wasn't our guy, it was the next door neighbor hired a tree guy, and we had these huge pine trees. He cut that pine tree, and it fell, and it broadsided his big pickup truck, and it looked like it made his pickup almost flat as a pancake. So I guess that
that's
was
right.
that one turned out.
That's how I've started using bonded tree guys years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I worked for this hard money lender. Oh, they're too expensive. I said, yeah, okay. When he drops that tree on somebody's house, guess how expensive that's going to be.
Yeah.
And that happened to them 2 or 3 times. After that, they listened to me.
Well, the other thing too is if you do your first job or you're doing your 100th job, it can happen anytime, any place, and you got to be set up and protected. And if it's not a question of will it happen, it's a question when it's going to happen.
That's right, exactly. Well, the professional tree guys, they got guys that climb in those trees all day long, and they bring all those limbs down. Matter of fact, when they leave my house or my property that I have them working on, you can't even tell there was a tree there except for the stump, right?
That's why.
I mean, they clean up the sawdust.
And that's what a good roofer does too.
Exactly.
You don't have crap all in your attic for the next 35 years. You don't have nails in your driveway. You don't have broken
or in your
brush.
yard that you step on, right?
You
Get
don't
in
have
your
your
tennis shoes. Oh, my
don't-
God. Well, anyway, real quick, to get back on the subject, because Ray and I can talk about all the problems.
I had one more on the contractor agreement. And
I want to go to change orders.
Okay, you do change orders, and I'll do the next.
Okay, that's
and then
great.
We'll do it. We'll call it quits. For
That's right. Okay, we're gonna stop going down rabbit holes here because we got a lot to talk about.
We got like 1 minute. So
Yeah.
that means you got 10 seconds.
Okay, well,
I need 50 seconds.
This is the change order, okay? What I do is when I do a change order, I write the change order. Somebody, let's say we run some termites or something in the wall, and I say, okay, my guys can repair that for $300, right?
Right.
Well, what I do is I write up a change order. The client signs it. We make the repair, and then we collect on that right then. And the reason for that, at the end of the job, I don't want like $3,000 in extras that my clients forgot about. Because he's thinking about that payoff. He's not thinking about all those extras he ordered.
Right.
So what we do is we stay on top of that as we go. And what happens at the end of the job, we're all friends, and you're going to call me back for another job because you like the way we do business.
Right.
And that's the way it should be all the time.
And that's the way you need to make your contractor behave too. You got to
right.
keep up with it because they'll throw surprises. Another thing is a change order in the contract agreement. That we use. It says that they have to be approved in writing.
That's right.
Because a lot of innocent mistakes are happening. Everybody underestimates how hard it is to communicate. We did this on the couple of days ago. Is I wanted a guy to go pick up a phone holder, and he thought I wanted him to go pick up a camera. And he brings back a camera, and I'm thinking, why'd you bring a camera? I wanted a phone holder. And him and I had the conversation on the phone, and he literally walked away from the phone call with a different idea than what I had.
Well,
and our ability to communicate is a lot harder than you believe it is, and that's why change orders need to be in writing, because good, honest people can have a difference of agreement.
The thing about it is, y'all got to understand, I'm going to say this one time, contractors generally have attention deficit disorder. Okay, they do. And it's a good thing.
Hold on, Pat. I want to go do something else.
Well, it's a good thing for them because they can move fast and change directions, okay?
Yeah, I'm just joking.
But you got to be clear with people, and that's why the writing is always good.
Yeah. Spell it out and be detailed. If we'd have written it out, which wasn't practical, he'd have said, okay, I'm going to Best Buy to pick up a camera. And I'd have looked at that and I said, who said camera? I said a camera holder.
All right. Well, you just go to show you, Ray and I have a brain full of stuff because we've had our bottoms kicked more than one time.
Yeah. So the last thing, and you went over your minute. You went over my minute too.
So did you. Went over mine.
So the last thing was put a timetable and a penalty if they don't finish the contract in time, because even if it's a good person, they're busy. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And if you don't have that kind of hanging over their head, they're going to go. I just found out today, a guy pulled off a job that we're overdue on. A guy pulled off last week and worked on another job for 2 days. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. What? Why is that?
Because he made a lot of money in that 2 days.
Yeah, and if he'd had that $100 a day penalty, he might have negotiated a little bit harder with that other contractor and said, hey, I can't
go there until next week.
Until next week. And and we wouldn't have lost, and that guy wouldn't have lost. Mm-hmm. But now we lost because we weren't the squeaky wheel. So now we promised to talk about some other things. Let's talk about, I don't know if you were in the room when they did the millionaire panel at last month's meeting. Were you there?
Oh yeah, I was there all the time. Well, I took pictures of you up there in the front of the room.
Yeah, in that one I was a master of ceremonies, but in San Antonio I was actually on the panel, so I was kind of sitting in a different seat. But both of those places, it was so fun to be around those guys who had, and basically the question was, how would you make $1 million in the next couple years? And it was so much fun to be on the around that panel listening to these guys. And these guys, we keep talking to like our students and stuff in our live streams. We keep talking about something we call KALM, KALM, and it's knowledge, attitude, leads, and money. Knowledge, attitude, leads, and money. The number one thing that everybody on that panel had, and not everybody in the audience, maybe a third of the people in the audience had this, but 100% of the people on the panel had this. They had the A for attitude. They all had the attitude. And one of the panelists was Chewy. And, we've heard that saying, when people are fearful, that's when you should be buying. And when people are marketing, and Chewy has made a statement on there, and he said that I've always looked for properties and situations other people didn't want to deal with. And as you look back, if you're a successful investor, you're seeing that's exactly what you're doing. You're taking on things that other people don't want to take back or take on. So that was really good. And then you didn't go to San Antonio with me. You flaked out as usual.
Yeah, but I got a couple new vendors that I've been working on.
But we had Veronica and her husband. Her husband was sitting in the audience, but Veronica was on the panel. And they've done well, I'm not going to say the number because she didn't tell me I could say the number, but she's done enough deals in the last 2 years that she can retire forever. And her husband's a firefighter, and they're not even close to wanting to stop once you get it going. And they said that she'd been investing for about 5 or 6 years. She started out at the Alamo Ria, and she did one deal, and then it took forever, and then she did another deal, and it took forever. But as she was doing these things, she was starting building systems and processes, just like you're really good at doing your homework before going out to look at a property or whatever. That's what they're doing. They got these systems and processes in place, And now, instead of doing that one deal every 4 months, now they're doing one deal a month, every month. And it's like a pipeline. So they're literally looking at, and she said something that about dealing with contractors that I've said, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. And she said, you got to get adult contractors. And something you and I talked about being babysitters for the adult babysitters. She brought that up, and she said, when she tries to train her contractors to understand what her needs are, because she knows that when she's out there on the job talking with those contractors, she's not getting the next property, and her talent is getting that next property.
Right.
And like we set it up where, like, and you're probably doing the same thing. We set it up on our jobs. We pay on Friday, and she said the same thing. We pay on Friday, and now she inspects on Friday. We pay on Friday. We inspect on Thursdays. So if we've got 5 jobs going on, we'll make that loop. And sometimes they're 60 miles away, or we've got some.
Well, it's your
Beaumont.
business. You have to do it.
You got to do it. And the thing is, no matter, you can have the most experienced guy doing the job, and he says, okay, I'm ready. And you go out there, and it's still a lot of little stupid crap that's not done. And so, and I even though I was on the panel in San Antonio, I wanted to push her a little bit on that. And she said, we only pay on Friday. And I said, but Veronica, I mean, I've got to make my car payment, and my wife needs the money, and blah, blah, blah. And
Minnie died.
And Veronica's so nice and sweet. And I wanted to push her on that, because if it's some big dude that's used to beating people up, he said, the hell with him. But I wanted to hear what the prior school teacher turned real estate investor was doing. And she said, she tries to explain it to him, but she says, we don't make allowances. There are no allowances. You get paid on Friday. And the thing is, whether you're a property manager or whether you're paying contractors, the contractors or the tenants are going to train you, or you're going to train them. And if you can keep to your word and hold on to it, then those people will end up being your best people. And if you break your word, then expect them to break it next week, and it never ends.
Well, and you're talking about paperwork. One of the things I do. 15. Well, thank God we have an engineer that tells us where we're at in a rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, we could be here for like 2 hours. The radio show ended an hour ago.
Yeah, well, it's going to end in 15 minutes now, we've been told. And listen, you've got to do this. You've got to be a paperwork person, and you got to take care of your business from the get-go. So the first check you write to people, because if you're new and this is the first time you use this plumber or this contractor or the roofer, is that you want to get a 1099.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And you want to get that on the first
W-9.
check.
You want to get a W-9.
A W-9. That's what I mean. A W-9. I'm sorry.
No, I understood.
Yeah, a W-9. You want to get a W-9. So you keep those W-9s in your office.
And you can print you can go to irs.gov, print that out, and just hand it.
Well, you can make copies off your own machine, right? Once you
Yeah.
get one. And what I do is I keep an e-file so I can print them, so I don't have to keep, a folder full of them. So I just go to my computer, pull up my e-file, and I print out how many I need for that particular payday. Now, all my guys are already, I have a
And guess,
W-2
let me just fill in a blank that you didn't disclose. The blank is, if you don't get that W-9 and you pay them that last check, you're never getting the
You're
W-9.
never getting it. And the other thing is that I set up release a lien forms.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And the reason I want that, even for my guys, I have them do it because if there's ever a dispute in this contract or selling this house, I have release of liens for everybody that worked on that job.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I believe in covering my bases.
Well, and we've been sloppy in the past, and we don't cover our bases. It's hell to pay. It's never. You're going to do it anyway. The question is, are you going to do it right then when you're in total control? Or are you going to wait to January 31st and find out this person's not answering the phone, he's not giving you the information, and then you're not in compliance? So you're still going to do, you're probably going to do more work if you don't do it at the beginning of the job.
That's right.
So when you give them that contractor agreement, the scope of work needs to be in there, the lien releases need to be in there, the W-9 needs to be in there. Get all that stuff done at one time. You're talking to the person. It takes 1 minute.
These guys are professionals. They don't mind signing that stuff at
Yeah.
all because they know that you're a business person.
But even if you're not using one of our guys, make sure you get it.
Oh, no,
Okay?
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, if you already have them on W-2 from the year before, that's not going to change.
Right.
Except for maybe a mailing address. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure you get the correct mailing address.
Right.
But other than that, once you get a crew working for you and you're really happy with them, they're performing on every project, then you pretty much have your bases covered. But I still would say a release of lien's not a bad idea because you're dealing with property, and if something comes up later, you're covered.
Right.
And the client that bought the house is covered because they had a release of lien that came with that project.
Yeah. There's so many ways to be surprised, and it's just not taking care of the basics. One of the things we talked about, that we're going to cover a little bit is just the inflation rate. They're kind of saying the inflation rate is now 7%, but there's some serious things they don't include in that inflation formula, like the cost of housing, which okay.
It's already skyrocketed.
Yeah. So the cost of food. So the inflation, a lot of people say 7%, but the other people say, well, if you look at the real numbers, it's 12%.
Yeah, I was saying 10 or 12%.
Yeah. And what if you go back and it's a good exercise, but go to Google. Google knows everything. In fact, it knows some things it doesn't really know. So you never know whether you can believe it. But if you go to Google, you can look for relationship between inflation and interest rates. Mm-hmm. And however inflation goes, you will see that historically that the interest rates track that. And so now we could have real high inflation, and we are having really big problems with fulfilling orders, like getting windows and getting lumber, and we are having some of those kinds of issues. So, but it may be that if COVID is really over, and I think just based on our little meetings where we're really getting pretty decent attendance, the COVID, I think people are like, okay, I'm tired of COVID. If I get COVID, I'm just going to live. I'm just going to hope I survive. It's like they're kind of throwing caution to the wind. Now, a lot more people are wearing masks, but I think these supply problems are going to improve. And once they improve, then our inflation numbers are going to jump back down. If inflation stays up, then interest rates are going to come up.
That's right.
And we already are talking. They've already kind of agreed that they're going to raise interest rates in March. So, it's, I think that's inevitable. But what I've seen is everybody talks about that stuff and nobody talks about them really going down. But if you watch them, the interest rates will start potentially
money,
start going
even
back
though
down.
it goes up a little bit, money's still pretty cheap right now.
It's extremely cheap for investors. In fact, that's what's happening. If you look at the cap rate, on apartments, the cap rate is a big factor in the cap rate is what the interest rates that investors can get. That in effect is a cap rate, and because interest rates are so low, it's drawing those cap rates real low. And if you do the math on a cap rate, a low cap rate means a high value in relation to the net operating income. So these apartment units and houses are worth more than ever, and you can tell because of the cap rate being so low and the interest rate is low. So the lower the interest rate, the higher the values. The higher the interest rate, the lower the value.
Well, and the appreciation rate is so dynamic right now in our economy.
Well, last year
that it really kind of offsets
it was 20%.
Right.
In a lot of the properties, and they're saying they're projecting this upcoming year is going to be 10%. Which is extraordinarily high.
That's right.
And prior to last year, it was 10%.
Well, for years it'd be 3 or 4%, right? And now it's like 10, 12%, 15%. It depends really what market you're in. You're close to downtown Houston, and Houston, like an East End, you can buy right now, and your appreciation rate is horrendous. You could really make a lot of money just buying, holding property, and selling it later.
So, one of the things that we've got coming up for the RIAs in Houston and San Antonio next month, San Antonio, is we're going to do case studies. We like ugly just as good as we like pretty. So if you're out there and you want to come to the meeting and you want to get and maybe present one of your case studies to our audience, then we encourage you to do that, because we learn. That's the whole point of the RIAs. We learn by networking with other investors and learning from their mistakes and learning from their wins. And sometimes I think the deals that I made we made big blunders on are more valuable to people. So we're going to do about 5 or 6 case studies in Houston and 5 or 6 case studies in San Antonio. Pat and I and the rest of the team in Houston and San Antonio have plenty of our own case studies that we can share with the audience. But if you're one of those people out there that want to share a case study, then go to Massive Passive Show and massivepassiveshow.com and contact us and say, hey, you want to present a case study. And really, we want to see the bad ones too. A couple, 2 or 3 bad ones and 2 or 3 good ones, because we can learn from our mistakes. And trust me, avoiding the mistakes can make all the difference. So that's coming up. Do we even know when that is? It's the second Saturday.
Yeah, the second Saturday of the month in Houston is our general meeting.
Yeah, and it's basically 8:30 to
8:30 to about 1 o'clock.
Doors open at 8:30.
We'll close around 12:15 or so, and then let people mingle and market, a little bit. But we also do the giveaways. So you want to be
door prize.
Yeah, you want to be sitting in your chair, because our vendors now, I've started a new program that Ray and I used to do years ago. Ray and I have known each other for 10 or 11 years.
Yeah.
And it's not our first rodeo together, And I initiated this program again when the vendors actually bring gift cards.
Right.
And we give those away. So it makes it a lot more fun if you can win something while you're there.
Yeah, and we're going to reward good behavior. So if you're good at networking, or you bring the most amount of guests, then you get a door prize.
I gave away a door prize for somebody who got the most business cards, okay? And people, I keep saying, get your business cards, and they didn't do it. This guy got 7, so he got a gift card.
Next month's meeting is on March 12th.
March 12th?
1001 West Loop South, Suite 550.
Okay. That's right. And then
repeat that address again.
1001 West Loop South, Suite 550.
And we recommend, there's other ways to do this, but we recommend that you park on the 7th floor and just walk straight over and then follow the sign.
Yeah, it's just a few steps and you walk into the 5th floor. It's really weird because the building's offset. It sits at the Buffalo Bio. And so the parking garage is really a little higher than the building. But
is that Aggie engineering at its best?
Well, it's because they don't want the place to get flooded, right? But it's really a great location. You'll really like it. It's very secure, very safe, and that's a big plus.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Hal?
Handicap parking is on the 6th floor of the parking garage.
Okay. Oh, okay, cool. And they can just walk in and use the elevator, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
It's Suite 550?
550.
Suite 550.
Okay.
Right. And it sounds like just a room, but it's a really big room. And we have a kitchen in there, and we have tacos in the morning if you're early.
If you're early enough.
Well, I tell you, with 100 people, they went pretty quick, and we had a lot of tacos.
I know. You didn't save me any, Pat.
I didn't know you didn't get one.
No,
I'll make sure you get one.
I bring them and I don't even get them.
What do you like? You like bacon or sausage?
I like it all. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, get you one that's got loaded then next time. I'll make sure I save one for you. But heck, I only got one. I generally eat 2. But I didn't want to be a hog, since we had so many people.
If you do hear this broadcast and you're in San Antonio, so if that's the 12th, then that would probably put us the 10th in San Antonio.
We're the second Thursday of the month.
Yeah.
And only this month is it the second Thursday fell actually before or after?
Well, go to Massive Passive Show.
Well, just go to Massive Passive.
Because we put our
calendar. Look at
on
your
there.
calendar. Hal can tell you right now what is the second Thursday, Hal, on your
It's going to be, I told you, it's going to be the 10th.
The 10th. Okay,
yeah, because if the number's higher than 7, then it's on the second week. So
listen,
8 through 14.
We have a new facility there too, right? A new venue.
Yeah, we'll put details there for you.
Yeah.
So, well, I just love hanging out with investors, having that panel and seeing those guys and just seeing what they did to succeed. It's not rocket science. It's just showing up for work. Yeah, that's what it's always been, just showing up for work, looking at deals, talking to people. And before you know it, you got these deals working for you. And we're Massive Passive. So you can do wholesaling and you can do flips because we have tons of experience. But if there's any opportunity to hold on to that thing, then why not hold on to it? I mean, we did the math. You make 5 to 7 times as much holding on to something
because you do getting rid of it fast.
And maybe even more because the tenants are typically buying the property for you.
Right.
The goal is get the tenants to pay for it. You get the tax benefits. You get the benefit of
And you get to
appreciation.
defer your income down the road, so you're not being taxed like crazy.
Well, and just think about this, and I don't know if we have time, but if you flip a property or wholesale it, you pay taxes. You pay taxes at that time because you're a dealer.
Right.
Right. So the goal is not to be a dealer. And if you can hold on to that property, that 30% that you would give to the government, guess where that 30% goes if you hold on to the property?
Back into more property.
Well,
Or into
it
your
stays
pocket.
in that property.
That's right.
And because it stays in that property, then if let's say you were to wrap around doing owner finance, you're making interest off of that money that you would have paid the government.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually holding on to that money, so you're making your interest or your rent off of some of the government's money also. So, I talked to a guy that had a wood mill because I have a tree problem, and I stopped by this guy that had a wood mill yesterday, which is a pretty interesting operation. His name was Kobe, a very interesting character. And he told me, he said, we were talking, he said, I have 7 rent houses I bought like 20 years ago. And I was looking at his wood mill there, and he bought 4 acres. And we're talking, I said, as I've met other people and been around as long as I have now, it's almost always the case that the person that has a business that's on their real estate, when they sell their business, they don't make money on selling their business. They make money on the real estate. Mm-hmm. And it's like, now, why do you have to run a business on a piece of ground for 20 years to realize the money's in the real estate? Why not realize that now and then rent that land out to the Kobe's who are going to be your tenant and then pay for that? And like Kobe, his real value is knowing the people that put the business together and then getting them to do business with them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, why doesn't he go out and buy another piece of ground 30 miles away? Because in that business, hauling the wood is expensive. So anyway, Massive Passive Show, I guess we're out of time. Mm-hmm. And so massivepassiveshow.com, go there. We put everything there. And if we forget to put something there, please contact us. Please
Tune
tell
in
us.
next Saturday morning because we're going to be here again.
Yes. All right.